Furi might actually already be one of my games of the year. Like, seriously, it is that good. I'm having way too much fun with this ridiculously fast-paced, brawling boss rush. It's great, but it's also ridiculously hard. So, every time we have a new ridiculously hard game coming out, we get the same debate about difficulty in video games. Furi's fights are like really fucking hard. Really, really, really hard. I've talked about difficulty and challenge in the past and the concept of getting good. And if nothing else, Furi, like Dark Souls, is get good, the video game. But I want to talk about difficulty in a more broad sense. The concepts that kind of get thrown around in these debates, because right around now, everybody starts asking the question, why don't these games have easy modes? And why don't these games let themselves be more accessible? And I think it's time that we considered the merits of difficulty as a game design decision. Now, I'll stand out right here and say that I am not against easy modes for games. In fact, when difficulty isn't a design decision, easy modes are encouraged. Having multiple difficulty levels allows more people to enjoy the same game. But there's certain games out there and certain genres, in fact, that enforce difficulty, that require difficulty to be interesting, and Furi is a good example of this. Furi lies within this boss rush, top-down, brawling, fighting genre, where difficulty really has to shine, because that's the primary means of advancement through the game. You're not given any new items, you're not given any new abilities. You start the game with a very specific toolbox, and then you move on through the game from there. Effectively, getting better at the game is your only means of progression, and the bosses demand that you get good. So Furi actually has an easy mode. It's called Promenade, but it warns you right off the bat. This game is going to be substantially easier and substantially shorter for the experience. It's for those who are interested in just getting the story in, and they don't get to unlock things like the Furier difficulty or Speedrunner mode at the end. To kind of make an interesting point of this, when you downgrade Furi to the Promenade difficulty, you'll find that the game doesn't actually work very well. So the bosses are still there, and they're still interesting, but they're very short. And in between each boss battle, there are these long, drawn-out segments of semi-exposition, semi-walking, and semi-cooldown from the dozen-plus minute battle that you just fought on the normal difficulty that are designed to kind of get you back into your own head so that you're ready for the next encounter. On Promenade, these become constant and boring and drawn out. You find yourself walking between bosses a lot more than you're actually fighting them, which kind of defeats the purpose. In a strange sort of way, the application of an easy mode to Furi actually makes the game worse. Now, I understand that the Promenade difficulty is an optional difficulty and not everybody has to partake in it, but my issue is the people who bought the game and started on this Promenade difficulty. They're going to have a terrible experience. I really feel for those people, because they might have enjoyed the game if they tried it on the standard difficulty, but if they dropped down to Promenade, they probably didn't, because Promenade sucks! Walking between boxes kind of sucks, unless you're trying to, drop your heart rate down to, normal human levels. It leads me to wonder if Promenade difficulty was included in the game as a design choice by the game bakers, or because they thought that if they included an easy mode, they could avoid this kind of hard game backlash that hits every hard game. To that end, it makes sense why this game would warn you so vehemently against playing on Promenade difficulty unless you're just interested in the bare bones experience, because that's all Furi is at that level. A very bare bones experience. No, Kotaku, it's not making fun of you. It's trying to warn you against playing an inferior version of the game. The big thing here is I don't think Furi can have an easy mode. Or at least this kind of genre of game makes it very difficult to have an easy mode. I mean, they already scale back a lot of the boss mechanics, but if you scale them back too far, the game experience becomes incredibly fleeting. I guess you could consider taking out the inter-boss sections, or allowing us to just skip over them instead of just auto-running us through them or whatever. But, I mean, it fundamentally breaks a lot of the core concepts at work in this genre of games, because these games have to be about difficulty, because that's their only system of progression. This is something that is likely restricted to the genre, and restricted to maybe even the game itself, because Furi is a very specifically designed game with a very specific goal in mind. But does that mean it needs an easy mode? Because this easy mode feels honestly quite tacked on. So in the curious case of Furi, yes, difficulty is a design decision, and going against that design decision actually made the game worse. So is difficulty a thing that we should be considering and censoring, Or should it be something that should be specific to the game itself? Maybe we should stop arguing that every game needs some sort of easy introductory level difficulty, and instead focus on, letting designers make those choices for their games, because difficulty in gameplay seems like it's just as much of an artistic choice as color palette or genre at this point. Difficulty can drastically change a game, and some genres only work when it's truly difficult. So in 90% of games and 90% of genres, an easy mode makes perfect sense, because an easy mode doesn't detrimentally affect the game mechanics in a way that completely delegitimizes the entire game. I mean, your Uncharted's and your Gears of War don't really change too much if you have to spend 3 bullets or 8 bullets to kill an enemy, or if you need to deal with 10 mechanics or 6 mechanics or 2 mechanics. At the end of the day, they're still going to be the same game. But a game like Furi, where difficulty is kind of fundamentally bred into its DNA, it makes a lot of sense not to worry about an easy mode, because at that point, difficulty is by design. It's an artistic choice. It's part of the game's core identity. Therefore, you can't really justify compromising that identity for the sake of accessibility. Maybe we should just step back and realize that not every game needs an easy mode, and that not every game is designed for every gamer, and that not every game needs to be micromanaged by fucking journalists and debates and shit. Let designers make their own games. They're making games. What the fuck, Orange Chatter? You bring up Furi twice in 1 week in 2 different videos, and neither of them are actually mainline reviews for Furi. Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, I've been playing Furi a lot, it's a very fun game. Also, thank you for watching this video, I hope you've enjoyed it. It's a little discussion into difficulty levels and do we need them in modern gaming. Just a little thought I had while I was kind of experiencing this stuff and watching all of the new discussion about Furi's difficulty. But I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, like or subscribe, it's a huge support to the channel. And if you have any thoughts on difficulty and whether games need difficulty, toss it down in the comments. I love to hear from you guys, as usual. But thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you all continue to have a great one.